Imagine walking into a room and instantly drawing people toward you without uttering a word. Imagine your presence alone making others feel understood, valued, and comfortable. It isn't charm, it isn't charisma in the traditional sense. It's something more powerful, more subtle, and far more sustainable. It's the art of magnetic listening. And yes, it can be mastered in just 1 week. The truth is, most people don't listen. They hear, sure, but they don't truly absorb. They respond before the other person is finished speaking. They formulate replies mid-sentence. They nod, not because they understand, but because they want their turn to talk. And that's exactly why magnetic listeners stand out. In a world starving to be heard, they offer something so rare, so genuine, that it instantly transforms how people see and connect with them. So, what happens when you decide to become a magnetic listener? Conversations change, interactions deepen, opportunities unfold, trust is built rapidly. People walk away from a moment with you feeling lighter, more hopeful, more seen. They feel something they rarely experience: true connection. But this kind of listening doesn't come from surface-level tricks. It doesn't come from memorizing a list of body language cues or parroting affirmations. It comes from a shift in awareness, a shift in intention, a shift in how you approach every interaction, no matter how small. And over the next 7 days, that shift begins. The first day is about awareness, not of others, but of yourself. You begin by noticing. You notice your habits in conversations, when you interrupt, when you drift, when you feel the urge to fix, compare, or judge. You don't change anything yet. You simply observe. And as you observe, you realize how much of your listening has been filtered through a lens of self-focus. You see how often conversations become about what you know, what you think, what you feel. This awareness is your foundation. On the second day, you introduce presence. You commit to being entirely where you are with whomever you're speaking to, not thinking about what you'll say next, not planning your next task, just being. You begin to feel how conversations open up when you're not distracted. You sense the energy shift when someone realizes you're fully with them. Presence is powerful, and it's rare. And when people feel it, they lean in. The third day brings the pause, that small, deliberate silence before you respond. This simple act changes everything. It shows you're not rushing to speak. It gives you time to let their words land. It gives them space to expand their thoughts. And often, that silence encourages them to share more than they intended. In that space, trust grows. You're no longer reacting, you're receiving. By the fourth day, curiosity awakens. You start asking questions, not to be clever, but to understand. You ask not just what happened, but how it felt. You go beyond facts and dive into emotions, meanings, and motivations. Your questions aren't scripted. They arise naturally because you're engaged, and people feel it. They open up. They reveal things they don't usually say. Because your curiosity isn't invasive, it's compassionate. Day 5 is about empathy, not sympathy, not fixing, but sitting with someone in their emotional landscape without trying to repaint it. You practice holding space for their experience, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's messy. You learn that sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Just a nod, a look of understanding, a simple "that sounds really hard," and you mean it, you feel it. That's empathy. By the 6th day, you begin to mirror, not mimic, but gently reflect back what you hear, helping the other person feel seen and clarified. When someone says, "I just feel like I'm always behind," you might respond, "It sounds like there's a lot of pressure on you right now." It's not about repeating their words, but capturing the essence of what they're saying. It's affirming their truth without judgment or interpretation. And in that reflection, people find themselves. They hear their own hearts more clearly. And then comes day 7. Integration. This is where everything begins to weave together. Awareness, presence, pause, curiosity, empathy, and reflection become part of how you move through the world. They no longer feel like steps, they feel like you. And people notice. They can't quite name it, but they feel incredibly safe with you, drawn to you. You become the person others seek out, not because you have all the answers, but because you make them feel like they do. You see, becoming a magnetic listener isn't about perfection. It's about intention. It's about showing up fully. It's about caring enough to quiet your own voice so someone else can find theirs. It's about making your presence a refuge in a world of noise. And that kind of presence changes lives. You start noticing the small shifts first. Someone who normally keeps to themselves opens up a little more. A colleague who seemed distant starts seeking you out. Family members begin to linger longer in conversation. Strangers start telling you things they wouldn't normally share. And not because you asked, but because you listened. Over time, this listening becomes second nature. You find that even in conflict, you listen before you defend. Even when criticized, you hear the pain behind the words. Even in silence, you tune into what's unspoken. And that creates space. space for healing, for connection, for growth. You realize that being a magnetic listener doesn't mean being passive. It doesn't mean agreeing with everything. It means being present enough to let others feel the full weight of their words, without needing to control, correct, or convince. It means knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, when to hold and when to help, when to simply be. You begin to appreciate the nuance of conversation, the breath between sentences, the flicker of hesitation, the subtle change in tone. You become attuned to the music beneath the words, and you start to respond not just to what is said, but to what is felt. That's where true connection lives. And this is the real secret. When you become a magnetic listener, you don't just change how others feel about you. You change how you feel about them. You start to see their humanity more clearly, their fears, their dreams, their vulnerabilities, and you hold it all with care, because you've learned that listening is an act of love. So by the end of this week, something inside you will have shifted. You won't just be hearing, you won't just be nodding, you'll be receiving, you'll be honoring, you'll be connecting. And people will feel that. They'll feel heard in a way they didn't know they needed, and they'll remember you for it. You won't need to prove yourself. You won't need to fight for attention. Your silence will say more than your words ever could. Because in that silence, people will find themselves, and they will thank you for it. That's the power of magnetic listening, and it's within your reach. Right now, 1 week, one shift at a time. It starts today.